give thank Ruben, Sunshine, and Frank for coming and agreeing to do this. I hope everybody gets value out of this. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to them, and perhaps they can just introduce themselves first, because I know, Nina, you haven't met them at all. And then, you know, how long they've been in the business, and then we'll dive right into the Q&A, okay?
Yeah.
My name is Ruben Galvan. I've been doing this for 15 years. I started at the Arcadia office. I've always been with this company. Started at the Arcadia office, and then we saw how many years ago. I trained here for 5 years. I was the company trainer for 5 years. But always been doing real estate for the last 15 years here in Coldwell Banker, mostly San Gabriel Valley. And I just got married to this beautiful girl 4 months ago.
Congratulations.
I'm Sunshine Galvan. Just got married with 4 months ago. I've been in the business 16 years. I started in 2006. And I've been with the same company since I started in the business. I started in the Arcadia office and in Alhambra. It's just been following the Mike Berry system ever since I started. And that's what, you know, I put my faith in, and it helped me actually grew to the level that I wanted to bring that.
My name is Frank Quintanilla. I've been a real estate agent for 11 years, all the time here at Coldwell Banker George Realty, Alhambra.
Wow, we got some loyalty here.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and get started. So you mentioned Mike Ferry, Sunshine. You feel you still utilize their scripts and report like their guiding and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So, you know, when I started in the business, I was lucky enough to be exposed to the system. Because I believe that the true foundation of a strong or productive agent is generating listings or taking listings. So it revolves around that. So I, you know, I made the commitment to learn the scripts, to commit to prospecting daily, and accepting that rejection is part of the process. So, and working on my mindset also on a daily basis. Yeah.
Like a positive attitude, right?
Yeah, strengthening your mindset by obviously exposing yourself to people who are positive, and just reading, you know, inspirational books and attending seminars, and you know, just really having this positive mindset, no matter what the market condition is, just always look at the brighter side of the market.
Awesome, awesome.
To add to that, when I got into real estate, I didn't have a sales background. I was in the military for 10 years. So I never been exposed to sales or talking to people, or, you know, having to produce some sort of service for them, like customer service. So I've always, my first 2 years was really difficult, not only because the market crashed, but because I didn't know how to make that connection from agent to homeowner, and here's a service and trust me. And I always thought there's got to be a way to figure this out. And I was lost for a long time because I thought I knew it all. And I thought that I could just do it my own way. And I really failed like a lot in the beginning because of my kind of like closed-mindedness to being open. And what really helped me transform to where I'm at and where I'm growing to be is a system like Mike Berry, because it allowed me to really put myself in an uncomfortable place. And Sunshine, I remember learning this stuff and thinking, this doesn't work for me. It might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. And so going through those ups and downs of learning a system, now I can say that, wow, that's really what I needed. Because at the time, I only saw like that it wasn't working, but I didn't notice that I was making strides by learning scripts and exposing myself to listing appointments and different personality styles, and tracking my numbers and following the schedule. Everybody was telling us that we were crazy for doing it. And I just thought, I don't have anything else to do. Like, I don't know what else to do. And so that's what was important for us, is creating a structure.
So those two aspects, it's, one is like overcoming your fears, right? And then also opening to change, right? Because if you're doing something and it's not working, then you continue to do it and not work or change, right? And see
Right.
what does work.
As a young agent, I think ego has a lot to do with my personality. As a veteran agent, empathy and sincerity has a lot to do with it.
Worse, yeah. You gotta humble yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because the market will humble you, even though you might not want to.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's extremely important, to also surround yourself. I know Frank for a long time, and some others in Sunshine. So it does help that you can kind of like sometimes, even though you guys might be going after the same listings, you guys can still talk to each other and say, hey, how did you do it? What did you do right? What did you do wrong? And then, no matter, there's so much business out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be so like cutthroat. I think that's something that's been important.
And this is a rare opportunity because there's no real secret in real estate. It's just you gotta do the work. But for these three individuals to be here and share their success stories and also their, what they had to go through to get to where they're at and continue to do. It just shows the type of people they are and the company that George Realty is, because they're willing to share this so that and change, you guys can utilize what they did wrong, what they did right and stuff and apply it to your business and stuff. So, for that reason, I applaud you guys being here and stuff. So, Frank,
Yes,
how about you?
about,
So what in this market today, what do you feel? I mean, I know that you have a different approach because you don't do door knocking and cold calling and stuff, because that works for you. Some people, that's the only method that they know. But in today's market, what do you think is where we're headed as far as prospecting and stuff? Because let's face it, it's getting more difficult as time comes, right? There's more competition and stuff. So what do you do differently than and what advice you can give the agents?
sure, well, prospecting is something I learned from my coach Ruben many, many years ago, that it's something everyone has to do. But unlike the Mike Ferry system where they're proponents of cold calling works for some people, but for, I would say, most agents, it doesn't work because it's very difficult. You really have to grind it. You really have to maintain a strong mindset to not get down from the constant rejection. So I'm more of a Tom Ferry follower, and Tom Ferry teaches, do whatever works for you, whether it's prospecting, cold calling, door knocking, mailing, social media, client events, whatever works for you. And that's the biggest challenge for an agent these days, is to find out what works for them. What works for me is prospecting my sphere. I was fortunate to know a lot of people in the community because I'm born and raised here in the San Gabriel Valley. And so I accumulated all those people into my CRM, which is something a lot of agents don't have, and I think everyone should have a customer relationship management system. I use Top Producer. So everybody that I know and like is in my Top Producer system, and that allows me to prospect, or in other words, stay in touch with them. Because when people, especially in this market, a lot of people are nervous about what's happening in the real estate market because of the media keeps pounding negative news, and you're a resource for your sphere with some positive information that maybe interest rates are high now, but you can buy and refinance later. There's not as much buyer competition as there was last year. Homes are coming on the market every week. There's still lots of opportunities to buy. And for sellers, if you can prep your home properly, you can still get top dollar for your home. So there's a lot of good news. And I like to be the resource for my sphere for that good news.
So the news would go through you instead of all the negativity. through the
Yes. And speaking of negativity, I don't, and I recommend this to anyone, but again, do what works. I don't listen to the news in the morning at all. No radio news, no TV news. those social media news, because most of the news is negative. And when you start your day, you want to start with a powerful, positive mindset. Because when you do that, the rest of your day, you're able to sail through.
So speaking about social media and apps and platforms, Ruben and Sunshine, do you guys use CRM or social media for your to get exposure?
Yes, absolutely. We obviously we have to adapt as a real estate agent. Prospecting for us is the number one thing. So prospecting in a way that you have two groups of people. One group is people you don't know, the strangers, which is a big percentage where the market is going to come from. Or another group, people you know, and that would be your database. So we consider social media, for instance, Instagram, obviously all of our followers, they're, seeing what you're posting and stuff like that. That's our way of exposing what we're doing as a real estate agent, our listings and whatnot. And, that we get leads here and there from that avenue, but for the most part, what works best for me is reaching out to people and talking to people, having conversations on a daily basis. And making sure, because it's a numbers game, if I want to do, let's say 20, 25 transactions, bottom line, I have to talk to 20 people a day to reach that goal. So I know real estate is, it sounds like it's a complicated business, but really Mike Berry says it's a simple business. We make it complicated if we just stick to the basics of talking to people and lead generation. And that's the key to success, because no matter how skilled you are as an agent, no matter how knowledgeable you are, you don't have any clients to work with, you're not going to be profitable. So you can be walking around as a market expert, but you don't have any clients to work with, then, so then you don't have any income. So at the end of the day, for me, that's the key. And every day you start at zero. Every day you feel like, okay, I got to, get on the phone, talk to people, and reframe my mind that prospecting, yes, could be boring, but prospecting is linked to my success. I've made money because I prospected. So it's a lot of reframing, like rejections also. Like you feel like, I don't want to be rejected. People keep saying no. But what if you reframe your mind and say, okay, that no will lead me to the next yes. Or they're saying no to me, not because they don't like me as a person. They just don't need my service at that moment. So my old coach actually told me about that. And ever since that clicked in my head, it's just become kind of like an automatic thing for me to get on the phone and do the activities I need to.
And CRM?
Yeah, we used to use top producers, but then we created kind of our own spreadsheet where we could re-plug in our clients to there with their personal information. But we figured out that sometimes a personal touch, we want to add extra customer service. Depends on also the age group. I know above between 30 to 50 years old, they'd rather have that conversation on the phone. Obviously our younger people rather have a text or email or DM. So we've also been versatile to that aspect, of reaching out to them by certain, I have clients that still don't have a computer, but then I have clients that won't answer my phone call, but they'll text me within the next second. So, that versatility has been big for us, and that's part of coaching is versatility. To say what she was saying, to Sunshine was saying, and what Frank was saying, like prospecting and the news, it's always the same. It's always been hard. It's never been easy. But transforming my mindset to that was, I'm glad it's hard. Because if it was easy, everybody be doing it. And everybody be getting business, and everybody be calling expireds, and just as it. So I'm kind of glad that a lot of us don't want to do it, because it's already hard enough. And yes, we get a lot of rude people on the phone, but we also get a lot of nice people on the phone. Yeah, they don't give us business, but they'll have a conversation with us. And that kind of builds momentum about us being better communicators. So it helps us communicate better. I think at the end of the day, if someone meets me at a supermarket or at a party, they already look sad when they talk to me, because they'll say, oh my God, Ruben, the market's not that bad. And I'm like, it's really good, to be honest with you. We've been doing this, this, and this, and this. This is the exciting part. This is what's going on. Yes, like Frank said, the rates are high, but we could always, you marry the house, not the rate, and then you have your own things to say, right? And then you have all this energy, and then you look at you like, whoa, you're doing pretty good. And I'm also, it's all perspective. But if you're indulged with negativity, then that's what's going to come out of you. But that's why it's always good to know what the market is doing. My coach always told me this, and it stuck with me a lot. It says, know that the market does not determine my goal, but the market does determine what I need to do to achieve my goal. So there's no such thing as a bad market. It's just, now you have to figure out your angle. A year ago, you gotta just make sure you take, as a matter of fact, any market, you gotta take this. In 2008, when the market crashed, market was tough, but for buyers, it was fun. If you're holding asset companies and you're taking short sales and foreclosures, it was fun. Not fun, but it was a lot of business. Right? So it just kind of determines that's the market we grew up in. I remember in 2008 market crash. There was tons of agents one week, and there was 0 agents the next week, and we figured it out. So,
Ruben, yeah, I have a question. As a veteran, it's interesting to hear that you still use some of the scripts. So, you arrange the scripts that you talk to the agents. Now, some agents does not want to do that because they think that the spontaneity, that should be sincere. So what do you think to that?
it is a very important question that you say that, because as I trained agents, the things like Sunshine said, the things that we're doing aren't hard. We make them hard because we're not used to them. But practice is such key. If you talk to any professional, they practice at what they do almost on a daily basis. If I talk to an attorney, when you talk to him and he's in his courtroom, he's looking at his notes because he's reading what he wants to ask the person on the stand. And so when you look at a doctor, he's looking, the first thing he grabs when he walks in the room is his chart. So with anything, I felt like I need to be that professional. It's a really mindset trip because our coach used to tell us, Ruben, I want you to write down the questions and I want you to ask the homeowner those questions in front of him. And if I were to say that to Jeffrey, right? It's Jeffrey. And I say, Jeffrey, is it okay if I write down, if I ask you these questions that I wrote down? I just don't want to forget anything. This is extremely important. And we're dealing with probably the biggest asset that you're going to have for the whole life. Is it okay if I read off my notes? He'll say yes. And I said, number one question, do you absolutely have to sell this home? I said, yeah, perfect, check mark. I just gave you part of the script. And so it's not that, it's more of us switching our mindset to saying, let me allow to do this because it works. Because if I do it my way, Peter, I won't do it this way. You know what I'll do? Hey, that's a nice house. You have a nice car. Oh, that's a nice dog. Wow, how's your day going? Man, my day's hard. I had to drive in traffic. And by the way, so how much do you want to sell the house for? How much commission? Yeah, I'll take 1%. Okay. You don't want to sign? That's okay. Yeah, do you want me to put a sign? You want me to pay for the staging? Okay. That's what I would have done because there's no form, there's no structure. Hope I answered.
Yeah, that I think I agree with you, and different stroke of different folks. They are comfortable with the spontaneity of dissertation. That's fine, but if some agents are not good at that, it's good to practice it beforehand, so that you become a kind of fluent what to say to them.
Peter, I didn't like this either. I didn't like it. I didn't want to say the scripts. It was against scripts.
I think to add to that, the script is actually designed to ask questions so we can understand the motivation of your client. So that's when you really find out what the need is, and they'll feel like you're interested in them versus just interested in what you can make out of this transaction. So the script is designed to find out what their motivation is, and also it leads to a closing technique. Because when you set an appointment, you want to go on it with the expectation that you want to walk away with a signed contract. So the script is designed for that matter. So it also saves you a lot of time because your goal is to be productive. You know, when you set an appointment, you want to make sure you go on an appointment that's pre-qualified. That's, you know, that seller is motivated enough to do something at that moment with you. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So it's really a system, you know, that was already created. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's what really makes it difficult for a lot of agents, because they're trying to find a formula, a magic formula, easier way, but there's no easier way. Gotta go through the process of failing, learning, and that's the only way that you're gonna grow.
Sometimes we don't want to say a script because we don't want to hear the truth. And I think that's sometimes the part of it. Like if you ask somebody, you need to sell this house, and they say no, you're thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And you'll spend 3 hours in the house.
Yeah.
I remember as a new agent, going to a house, no pre-qualified, no scripts, spending time with this lady in Pasadena. She made me lunch and dinner.
With no listing.
And no listing. She told me she's gonna sell next year, and I was okay.
And then you'll go to breakfast and she'll get.
Yeah. And that's the guy, the agent I was in the beginning. And I'll be honest, that's the vulnerability that I think now I'm willing to be with you guys and anybody that's listening. That it took me such a long time to understand this. It took me probably a good 3 or 4 years to really understand it, because there has to be a system behind it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes off, it shouldn't be something we like. But I mean, I send my kids to college, they don't like it, but they have to go. Right? We all do stuff that we don't like, but it's the way to do it, I think, unless we're gifted with some sort of special gift.
From a, do me a favor, they can't, people on Zoom can't hear, can you speak a little louder?
Oh, I could speak real loud. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Can everybody hear me?
Don't yell at us, though.
What is your typical day? Do you do cold calling every day from a certain time to a certain time? Do you call people that you know of yourself? And what is your schedule like? I understand you like Mike Ferry, and the scripts that you have from Mike Ferry, are they updated scripts, or are there some that you've used throughout the years?
It's something that we've used throughout the years. I would say it's been updated according to now where the market is at. Sometimes they're going to ask you questions about the market, and it's just, it comes with what you now know about. So, but you stick to the script, you, because of practice and everything, that you become more conversational on the phone. To answer your question, it's the same script. I would just say it's a little bit more advanced because now we've been doing it so long that it just comes out so natural that it doesn't sound robotic anymore. So, and the clients will also feel your sincerity because of the tone of your voice. So there's different techniques that we learn throughout the years, which is the tone, how you say it, and not just the script itself. So, and that comes with practice. And the schedule, that's an important thing. If you want structure with your business, you have to have a schedule. So I do time blocking. So I make sure that 2 hours at least a day, I would be on the phone prospecting for new leads. In the morning, I work on my mindset. So 3 times a week, I go to the gym. I have a personal trainer. So we do that 3 times a week. And then we do our savers. I recommend this book called Miracle Morning. So savers is you wake up in the morning with that focus. You silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So to me, that works really good in priming myself for the day. So not just I'm priming myself physically, I'm priming myself mentally, because it takes a lot of energy to be on the phone talking to people and facing a lot of rejections. So that's how I prepare myself for the day. You may not see me here, like doing anything in the morning, but I'm out doing something, working on my mindset and my physical health. So I could be the best version of myself when I get on the phone or meet clients and go on listening appointments. So,
We've had the advantage, we've had the opportunity to change up our schedule the last 2 years. I think in the beginning, you were asking, then yes, it was like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you're at the office by 9, you're prospecting by 9:30. But for us, that you rarely get you get tired of it, right? So what we did is we were able to change it, become a little more versatile. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays are our late days. So we'll go to the gym, we have a personal trainer, he works out with us for an hour and a half. We go back, have a lunch, an early lunch, because we know we're gonna be working late that day. So Mondays and Thursdays are our early days. We're already probably on the phone by like 9:30 to 11:30, then we'll take a lunch. Then we'll do a follow-up with our email and stuff like that, and then we'll come into the office by like 1:30. That's why everybody kind of sees us coming at 1:30, but we've been able to create that discipline the last 10 years to be able to do what we're doing now. And now with technology, we could be on the phone in our car or at our home office, and we're still working. I think I'm better than her at this, where I'm really good at shutting down. So once around 6 o'clock, I'm pretty much, if you don't get a hold of me, I'm not gonna answer my phone, but that's just me. Maybe Frank's probably not like that, probably different. Frank's super nice guy.
yeah.
Probably answer his phone if I call him at midnight. So he's different, so, but it all works
It's
for us.
Ruben.
Yeah, he's right, but Sunshine, she'll probably shut it down like around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And I'm like, no, like, that's not how I would like to, but we all work different, but it's the same similar structure. But it's always important for us to talk to people.
And when you do cold calling too, right? And who do you get your list from? Do you get it from title reps or?
No, so, I do, and on different days, I'll call different people, but I get bored really easily. There's two things that I do. I start off because you guys have to understand something about me is I don't like calling at all. Even to this day, I wouldn't want to call, but I know that that's going to pay my bills and that's going to pay for the house that we're going to buy and the vacation we just came on and the vacation we're going on this summer that we already planned and the things that our kids tell us that they want, right? They're so expensive. What happens with me is that I call the people I know first because they're like my fans. They're like my support system. So if I call my family, my friends first, I do, and I'll call them like 5 at a time. And they'll be like, oh, no, right now, but if I did have somebody, I would call them. By the way, how's everything going? And so it gets my motivation up. Then I go expires, 10 contacts, and then I'll end it with maybe one for sale by owner. I really don't like talking about it. But I have to push out of my comfort zone. Where do I get my numbers from? Obviously, the ones that I already have on my database, but I'm part of a system called Vulcan 7. Vulcan 7. It's a calling service that gives me numbers, expired numbers, and for sale by owner numbers that come out every day. And it's a guidance system that also connects to my phone. So that way I can call. I don't have to dial any numbers. I just put on my headset and I'm just calling. And I'm calling. So I about to call between 80 to 100 people an hour. About 8 people will answer per hour. Most of them will hang up on me. A couple of them will curse me out. But the ones I'm focused on, the ones say, hey, I'm not selling, my neighbor's thinking about selling. Actually, the neighbor down the street, I saw her moving some boxes around. Maybe you want to go talk to her. Here's her address. So stuff like that. The expireds run through fast, because they'll tell you right from the beginning if they want to buy or sell. And so that's the system I use, and we use it together.
And there's another system called Arch Telecom. And that's a good way to start with because they're very, lower cost. So if you want to just get like leads emailed to you with phone numbers for expires and for sale by owners, I would recommend Arch Telecom.
The reason I use the Vulcan 7 one, and this sounds ridiculous, but for me, it's because it costs money. And when I don't use it, it hurts me.
Yeah.
So it costs me like $300 a month to use it. But I know that if I don't use it, and it comes out of my account, because they don't call me, they automatically take, oh my God, that really hurts my heart.
Yeah.
And so that tells me, get on the phone, man, you're losing money. Because we used to buy this into the service, it was like $10 a month. Man, that's $10 a month, right? That's why I think another reason I need, it's a form of accountability.
Sunshine. What do you think of?
Loud. Michelle had.
Oh, okay. I wanted to ask Frank, because I noticed that I hear boom alarms going on and off all day long.
Mhm.
And I know it's something that you're doing, but I don't quite know what you're doing. You're doing alarms.
I'm
What-
cooking.
Yeah.
Cooking for business. Yeah,
You on track, so I'm just curious what exactly you're doing.
that's a great question. So I do time block my day. And I do it in the form of a written schedule. So it starts at 9 o'clock and it ends at 8 o'clock. So every hour of that day in the morning, as part of my morning routine, I fill it out. What I'm gonna do, transactions I'm working on, tasks I have to do, like create a CMA for someone. If I need to call someone at a specific time, I write them into my schedule. So that timer tells me when I set it at 9 o'clock to go off at 10 o'clock, that at 10 o'clock, I'm hopefully I'm finished with everything I was going to do in the 9 o'clock hour. And then if I, for some reason, I failed to call two people that I needed to call at the 9 o'clock hour, I scratch them off the 9 o'clock hour and then I move them onto another hour in the day, maybe the subsequent hour or maybe in the afternoon. And the timer keeps me on track. So every hour that I'm doing something, I know when time's up. And then you switch to something else.
That's good.
Time.
Yeah.
Yes, so the timer, just an ordinary kitchen timer, keeps me on track. And if I have a phone call, say I'm gonna speak with a prospective client at 1:15, I have a second timer. So one timer is gonna go off at 2 o'clock and the other timer is gonna go off in 15 minutes. Or actually, I'll set it a minute before. So at 1:14, the timer goes off, I'll call the Joe Smith at 1:15, then I call Joe Smith. So that it helps me stay on my schedule, which is for me,
Yeah,
it's super important to stay on a schedule. Because as independent contractors,
Yeah.
if you don't work on a schedule, there are millions of distractions from other agents to social media, to phone calls.
Yeah.
You can just get taken off your mental schedule as so easily. So I have a written schedule and the timers help me stay on it.
I have one more follow-up
Sure.
question. How often are you contacting your sphere? Because I know you work heavily against your sphere of
Yes,
influence. What is your average contact a year with one person on there?
Oh,
How
that-
often?
that's a great question. So I use, in addition to my CRM, I use an email management system called Constant Contact. So I put everyone I know into constant contact in addition to any leads I get, seller leads or email leads. So through constant contact, I will send everybody an email only once a month. And it's usually holiday related. So this month, I'm going to send everybody a happy Thanksgiving email. And I'll personalize it, but Constant Contact has templates, but then I can personalize it. Some agents believe in email bombing, once a week, every 2 weeks. I don't, because when I tried to email too much, I would get unsubscribes, and I didn't like to get unsubscribed.
Yeah.
So I just email my entire database once a month. And then top producer tells me who to call, email, or text. So regarding staying in touch with your database, calling is not always the best way to do it, because these days, a lot of people are so busy and they purposely don't even answer their phone. But once you learn what they like, some people prefer to be text. Some people prefer a direct message, a DM. Some people prefer a phone call. And so I try to contact my sphere. I don't do it like 4 times a year, 3 times a year. The email is once a month. And then everyone that's in my sphere that I know their birthday, I always send them a text message. Unless there's someone really special, I will call them. So everyone in my database that I know their birthday, I send them a happy birthday, Janice. And then if it's a past client, I send every past client a birthday card with a scratcher inside. They love it because most people don't do it.
Yeah.
So those are the ways I stay in touch, and I would like to develop more client events like some agents do. So for example, last year I had my first annual pie giveaway in which I gave pies to everyone that was either a past client or they referred me a client. So it was the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and they came here to the office and they picked up a pie. And because it was COVID, most people just drove through and just picked it up, but they said hi. But I remember one past client from Santa Fe Springs, she was driving through, she said, "Oh, Frank, this is so nice, thank you so much. By the way, my aunt in Duarte in Azusa is thinking of selling." I said, "Great." She gave me her aunt's information. That led to a transaction in January, which I represented the aunt, and I also found the buyer. So those types of events I want to develop more because I love interacting with my sphere on a very personal basis. So the pie giveaway, I'm going to have the second annual client appreciation pie giveaway later this month.
A great idea,
Nice.
Frank.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Peter?
Yeah. What do you think of working as a team? I know that you have a good partner already, but for those people who doesn't have a partner, do you recommend it to be working as a team?
Well, working as a team, and now you look at it as building, like now you kind of like working more on recruiting another agent to your team. So I don't want to. What do you mean, like
As a team,
As a
and working. with
partner?
deals, yeah,
Partner. Oh, okay.
To go
So-
into list deals and you support each other when you are in.
I would say that's a good idea, especially if you feel like you're in the beginning, you're lost, you don't know what to do. Partnering up with someone who's been in the business a long time, that's a great way to learn from them. So, and also have that accountability partner that you need, because like you said, being an independent contractor, it's not easy. You wake up in the morning, you're like, what do I do today? So having that accountability partner, checking in with each other and working together by prospecting together or going on appointments together. That's a great way to learn and to start your business and grow. Yeah, I would highly recommend that.
It helps because
Yeah.
also, like, let's say, for us, this is still new because we also work on individual stuff on our own. And sometimes we're kind of leaning a little more towards team stuff, but a lot of times she does her own thing. I do my own thing. But sometimes maybe I'm not as busy or she's not as busy. And maybe I have a good lead and to listen to her. She comes with me. It kind of builds up her morale to be, okay, now I got something else going on. So I think that momentum and consistency helps us when you're one is down, one is up. Kind of, that philosophy. But as far as, I think the hardest part about working together is that you have to try to make sure you line up with someone that's like-minded as you, work ethic wise. Because that person might be carrying a heavier load than you, and there might be some resentment that builds up, right? And so it's important, I think, for us is that we've been working apart for such a long time. That we have similarities, but we also have a lot of versatility in our mindset to say, okay, you're really good at this part. I'm better at this part. Let's talk about it and let's make a plan. So when we do go on listing presentations, she's in charge of certain things and I'm in charge of certain things. And we practice before we go on the listing presentation. And then when we're there, it kind of makes it seem like we're organized.
Yeah, you're right, because if you're working together, the equal partner, you want to get somebody who's more like same experience,
Yeah.
some kind of same philosophy, and so that we can work together smoothly.
Yeah.
But for some people who have, experience, real estate for a long time, and then, one, new agent come along, that's a bit of a difference. So I think, if you have a mentor mentee,
Yeah.
in a program, that will kind of.
Yeah. So we're definitely open to
Definitely.
that. Yeah, we're open to mentorship if someone, an agent would like to,
good.
maybe. Team up for a certain lead or listing appointment would be open.
Do we have any more questions? I have some questions, but I want to.
I have a question. What do you think is,
Speak up. Because they can't hear you.
okay, do you think that dealing with the divorce potential listing is one of the most difficult ones?
I think for our last 3 transactions have been divorce. People, I think while we're talking Sunshine, we always try to figure out what's going on, or what I think, nobody knows. Are gonna be some distress sales, but not in loss of equity, but distress in maybe relationship, or maybe they just kind of bought the house and they still have equity or something. And I think the last 3 or 4 transactions for us have been with relationship homes.
Yeah.
Is really gaining the trust of both of them at the same time. And what happens is that you just kind of have to separate yourself. You have to talk to the husband probably by himself and the wife by herself. And then be very disclosing about everything to each of them. Because they're probably mad at each other. And just know that you represent both of them at the same time and you're fair in your dealings. I think for us, it's always been important for us to disclose and be honest and ethical.
Yeah.
That's important for us because I think that goes a long way and they see that we're being honest with them. But as far as it being difficult, dealing with 5 trustees, 5 kids that are looking for their house because their parents passed away. I mean, they all want to share, and especially one wants more than the other one. I mean, that's hard too. Or just going to a brother that the sister doesn't want to sell and the brother needs the money, so that's hard too. So it just understanding the situation, I think you just have to figure out what's best for them and then see how can I apply my skills to what they need.
It takes a lot of versatility and understanding what personality style they are. And that's how you're gonna be able to gauge how you wanna interact with them. And then, like you said, separate meetings, separate phone calls. And then just really be as neutral as you can.
They're gonna be upset, but luckily, like this last one, the husband would call me all the time and the wife would call her.
Yeah.
And then we would have dinner. It's like, what did he say?
I was gonna get into conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any questions? Good.
No questions.
So guys,
You could ask you.
guys work 7 days a week?
No.
No? You give yourself some time,
5 days.
5 days a week?
I typically work 6.
Okay.
If I could work 4, I would.
It's hard, not hard. Whatever, let me ask you this, you guys should,
Very efficient.
but if you go to a function, you're technically not working, but you're still networking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, it's easier for me to be at a function and work. And I take it as being normal. They see your Instagram, they see your Facebook, and they see that things are going on. And so when people see me or see her, first thing out of their mouth is like, how's the business? How's the market?
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you thinking about doing? So I switch it back to a question, open-ended questions always lead to answers, right? So they say, well, what are you thinking about doing? Selling or buying? And they go, no. Oh, well, who do you know that was looking to sell or buy? And like, oh, and then we start talking about that. And so it kind of leads to other stuff. And then, and especially knowing how old they are. I'm coming to a generation now where a lot of the guys that I'm really friends with, they're like itching to retirement. I'm not that old, but they're thinking about it. And so I talk to them about investments and income properties. And you guys look into that. And they get curious. Now their kids are in college, right? And they're thinking about when their kids graduate college. So maybe downsizing. The big thing is for us downside, moving out of state. We've had a lot of friends move out of state. So there's always an angle figuring out the right.
I know you guys spoke about structure earlier. No, you guys structure it on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, or a daily basis? As far as, like, I myself, I have an agenda every day, and it changes every day. Is that something that you guys do on a daily basis? Frank?
I have a daily schedule. It changes every day, and I base it off of what I put in my calendar on my phone. So if I'm out at a property or I get a phone call on the road and I pull over and make a note that I have to do this or call someone at this time, I put it into my phone calendar. And then in the morning, when I'm creating my written schedule, I open up my phone calendar. And that calendar tells me, you're gonna call this person, you're gonna attend this inspection, you're going to do this CMA, and then I transfer everything on my phone calendar onto the written calendar. Every day it's new things, except for like I have a certain morning routine and a daily routine that I do the same thing every day. I don't vary. And the rest of the day, so like, for example, when I have my lunch, that's the time I'm on Facebook. I don't go on, at random times, because you lose track of time when you're on social media. So I only go on Facebook during the day in the office on my lunchtime. And that's on my schedule. It says lunch, Facebook, and voicemails. At the end of that hour, I pick up all my voicemails. And then I put those callbacks into my schedule too, so I can call them back.
Ruben and Sunshine, how important do you think it is for an agent to have structure in their business as far as to the daily goals and also daily tasks? Because let's face it, a lot of these realtors, a lot of these professionals, they fluke it. They don't have a structure, which I mean, I don't know how, I wouldn't be able to operate that way because I wouldn't even know what I have to do and stuff. I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
So how important do you think it is for agents to have that type of structure in their daily agenda?
Yeah, it's super important because it's so easy to get distracted, like you said. And we can always control what we do, our efforts. You know that you need to put in the efforts and you need to do the activities on a daily basis to achieve your goal. You're never going to get to your goal without taking these steps. And these little steps that we do on a daily basis is what's going to, take us there. So it's very important to plant our seeds every day. And the way to do that is really put that on your schedule, because if you don't put on your schedule, you want to prospect that day or generate leads that day, guess what? It's never going to happen. So you always have to time block, like you said, time block. The most important activity of the day is generate leads. No matter how you do it, no matter if you prospect or contact your friends on Instagram, whatever ways you do to generate leads, time block that and do that at least for 2 hours. And if you're a new agent, I would recommend, if you don't have any business that you have to work with, increase that number to 4 hours. Do your best in the beginning to plant the seeds. So this way, you can expedite the result, instead of waiting 6 months to get your first transaction. Maybe it could happen in 3 months because it's a cycle. What you plant today, you will generate that in the next 3 months. So if you don't have anything right now, it's because you never prospected 3 months ago. So that's just for me, the mindset that I have. So that's why I have to do this every day. Another structure that's so important is business plan. So the only time that you could, before I just thought, okay, this is a job that I do. And then when I hired a coach, that's when I learned that you have to have a business plan. You have to treat this as a business. It's not just a job. So if you want to make a lot of money and be profitable in this business, you do have to have a business plan. And that's your roadmap to success.
Yeah, so you create a blueprint. So like, let's say you're building a house and you need a blueprint of how big you want it, how many rooms, bathrooms, kitchen, all that stuff. Or you're creating, you don't just, the engineer or the architect don't just walk up and say, we're gonna build this house. So just imagine you have to build a blueprint for your business, and that blueprint is your business plan, down to how many days you're working that year, how many days are you taking off, how many days are you prospecting, how many people are you gonna contact per year? Who are you gonna contact? How many transactions are you gonna do? How many deals are gonna fall out of escrow? So you almost pre-plan everything, right? The one that's probably really important for us, and probably for all three of us, is like start to calculate how much you make per hour. Once you calculate how much you make per hour, you start realizing that if I don't prospect, I'm losing that per hour, it starts to hurt. So we figured that out years ago when we don't prospect, and then we're thinking, why don't we have business? And then you start feeling the pain. Our coach used to tell us that people sell for two reasons. They sell out of pain or out of pleasure. And we just try to figure out how to get to the figure out if it's pain or pleasure and how to get to that point. But to answer your question, the schedule, the business plans, the mentoring. Like I told you guys, and I think this morning when we're practicing for this, and we've been taught to practice for everything. It was like we want to come in not acting like we know everything. We want to come in with so much empathy and sincerity that we want to show you guys how vulnerable we could be, because we're just like you guys. And if you really truly want to be successful at this, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And you guys can do it eventually. You're doing it, and we're. I don't know about Frank. I don't know if Frank's.
Yeah,
In my set, but we struggle. I
Yeah.
struggle with this business. I struggle with coming into work. I come in, making my contacts, saying the right things, not saying the right things. Even when I'm in front of my clients, struggle with those thoughts every day. And so I'm consistently being bombarded with that thought in my head. But then I go back to my notes, I talk to Sunshine, I listen to something positive, motivating. I'm like, all right, snap out of it, let's go. Rebound fast, you know. So that's just so you know, we go through the same kind of like issues too.
So that's full circle back to mindset. When, you know, in the business, it all intertwines with mindset, and you just gotta work hard at it, you know. Regarding business plan, you do that annually?
Yeah.
Annually.
So it's annually, and then if you really want to, like, I'm a very, I think, analytical guy, so I'll take one and do one quarterly, and a monthly one, and a weekly one. Just so, because I'm all about the numbers, and I feel like that's important for me. But the yearly one kind of sets the tone on everything. That's when you start figuring out who you are. If you're analytical, you're a driver, you're amiable, or you're what's the other one?
Yeah, we're good.
Once you start figuring out who you are, you start figuring out how to run your business. Like trying to be.
And if you're a visual person, I would recommend do a dream board. You know, I like to see what I want, and it inspires me every day. It excites me. The business plan is good. It tells you the figure you want to make and the steps that you have to take. But for me as a visual person, I'd like to see what I want to achieve. And that helps me out a lot. And every day before I start making my calls, whether it's my database or, you know, expires and for sale by owners, I look at my dream board, and that inspires me and makes me realize, okay, it's worth it. So let me make my phone call now. So,
It's kind of like a physique, right?
Yeah.
I want a six pack, so I need to put a picture of something.
Exactly.
You know what, for me, like what I learned off these two, like from Frank, every time I think about Frank, I think extremely nice, probably the best customer service.
yeah.
Those are the thoughts that
Yeah.
come in my head, right?
Yeah.
That's what comes in my head.
Go the extra mile.
Yeah. So what you want to do is that you want to take that, learn that from Frank, and I want to implement it in my business when I talk to my clients. And I think I want to be like Frank. When I listen to Sunshine, it's like she puts her dream board up, and then she'll look back and she's achieving those things. And I'm like, ooh, it works. And then now that I see her wake up, she goes straight to her affirmations. She stands up in bed and she's affirmating. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, affirmations, and she does it. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I need to grab that. And so then you feed off that. And that's how you start your day, because as soon as you step out of the door, you're gonna get attacked by this negative thing, or somebody cuts you off, or the dog is barking at you, or you think that person's giving you a dirty look, or you know, whatever it is. But I think those are important things. I think about this.
Yeah, and I think this is the beauty of what we're doing today is because you're able to take portions of each individual's personality and how they approach their business and stuff and potentially apply it to your business and stuff. So it's not necessarily do it this way, but find out what works for you and stuff and what works for them. We'll get to that answer right after Irma's. Speak loud, please.
One more thing, could we have a copy of the scripts you have?
Yeah.
That I would appreciate it, and I worked with Frank too on something we're working on. But he is one of the most patient person I've ever, I mean, I told my kids and I go, oh my God, you know somebody that's patient? I go, yes, beyond patient. I mean, I've seen him like, he knows how to do it. And because it's a hard business. It's nothing like selling on Sunset because that's a bunch of BS. But this is hard work because I gave money in my other business. I gave money, so people called me. Now I'm having to call people. That's hard.
Yeah.
And asking for money. So, you know, I appreciate this. I talked to Ruben about 2 months ago about having some of the top agents do something like this, and thank you. And I look forward to more people doing this, maybe every quarter or every other month, because I'm just amazed. It's hard work. It really is. And I told my sons when I finally retired from this industry too, I'm gonna have TikToks about the good and the bad, about where I work, real estate. It's not easy. It's hard. And I applaud you guys for being in this business as long as you have.
But it's also rewarding if you work at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's given us a lifestyle that I thought I could only dream of, but at least now that I'm married. We had probably the dream wedding. I never thought I would have. We got to go to the most beautiful honeymoon. I'm just bragging about that, but it came from prospecting. So
Wow.
I connect my problems, which is not having something, to connecting my dream wedding, my dream honeymoon, because I prospected all last year and this year, so I could pay for that. And that's why she's like, this works. So she's constantly, reminding me.
How long have you guys been working together in the business?
We known each. I met her
10 years.
10 years.
So we don't really work together on just sometimes on certain leads that we have and came across together, but we have separate businesses, but we've always been part of our little mastermind group. So if you can find a group of like-minded people, do that. And that will help you also with, just learning from each other, practice together.
Role-playing together,
Yeah.
holding each other accountable.
Holding each other accountable.
Playing different kind of games, like where you could say, okay, if you don't show up by the office at 9 o'clock, you owe $10. Or if you don't make your contacts today, you owe $20. And you pay up front.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the week, if you did your job, you get your money back. Stuff like that. So we've been doing that for the last 10 years. I mean, but it was fun because you get 4 or 5 other agents, and now it starts to get really fun. The money gets up there. And we would go to seminars together, and we were in coaching together. And so it just became part of life. This becomes part of life.
Who did you use as your coach?
My Ferry system, so they would assign you a coach,
Different
coaching. We've always kind of been leaning more towards my Ferry, because that's what we felt like we believe in.
And that's what worked for us. I
Yeah.
mean, also Tom Ferry.
I believe in
great
Tom
coach.
Ferry's
Yeah.
methods too, so
So,
everything works.
You have everything.
There's different coaches. There's a lot of coaches in our industry. My first coach was a Mike Ferry coach. And then I switched to a Tom Ferry coach. And there's a local coach named David Halpern who visited our office a few years ago. He was my latest coach for the past 2 years, who taught me to work my sphere of influence.
Mhm.
But there's other coaches I coached through the Tony Robbins program, which strengthened my mindset, which affects your business. You want to find a coach that you resonate with. For them, they're Mike Ferry, it works very well for them. When I coached for 2 years under my Tom Ferry coach, it was awesome. But then I felt I learned everything I needed to learn, and I moved on. Then I coached with David Halpern for a couple of years. But even today, I still watch the Tom Ferry videos on YouTube, and David Halpern, I still attend his training events and implement a lot of what he taught me. But everything I do now is a culmination of Tony Robbins, Tom Ferry, David Halpern. There was another coach that was just on Facebook that I coached with her for 6 months, and you want to find what works for you. And when you see that it's working for you, do more of it. That's super, super important. It's got to work for you.
I have another question for going into these holidays and the looming economy. What would you recommend for agents? What would be like your top recommendations for agents to do on a daily basis and to generate business or increase business? If you had to put it in a nutshell, what is it that you would do if it was you that needed to generate business or increase business going into the economy that we're in right now?
That's a really good question. Like I was sharing with you guys, to me, like, I'm really transforming my mindset to saying that there's no such thing as like a bad economy. I can't listen to that, because if I do, I won't leave my house. I'll be like, oh, depressed, the world is falling, my anxiety will go up, so I'm gonna do my best not falling into that trap. But I'll do what I can control. We always talk about this. Control what you can control. What I can control right now, I can call my center of influence and making sure, like Frank said, make sure you're in front of them when they say, hey, happy Thanksgiving. What are your plans? How's everything going? Same thing for Christmas, same thing for New Year, right? But what I would do right now, if I were a new agent, I would want someone to tell me, hey, start planning for next year. So what I do today is really the business that I'm going to do in January and February. So what I did, August, September is what I'm doing today, because it's a 90-day cycle. So it's very rare, or at least for me or for a Sunshine and I, that I get on the phone and they tell me, hey, Ruben, I'm glad you called. Come over. I'm going to sell my house today. Like, it's rare. Frank, maybe do you get those calls?
I get those calls and I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need more of them.
Yeah. So that's when that does happen, we're over there, we're running over there, but most of the times it's, hey, call me in 2 weeks, hey, we're remodeling, check back with me in 3 weeks, or hey, we're gonna be out of town for a couple weeks, check back with me next year. So right now it's a lot of those calls, so I'm piling them up. So when January 1st hits, I'm already setting up appointments. So what I do the last 2 weeks of December is I call everyone and I say, hey, guess what? My appointments look open for January. Just before it gets booked up, let's set up an appointment now so we can start fresh and start the new year right. And they'll say, okay, why don't we do that? And then we'll start setting up appointments for January. So what I would tell you, a new agent or someone right now, is make sure you're gathering all your friends and family's information. So that way you're contacting them first. And then get in front of them for Thanksgiving, New Year's, and Christmas, and then work on your business plans for 2020.
Yeah.
So what I do is every year I mail a calendar to my sphere of influence. I pull the data out of my top producer and I mail them a calendar the first few days of December. Throughout November is when we're stuffing them and putting the stickers on and the postage and everything. So the first few days of December, everyone gets a calendar with my name on it, my phone number, the Coldwell Banker George logo. And so since I sent it out the very beginning of December, I have the next 2-3 weeks to contact as many people as I can in my sphere. Hey, did you get my calendar?
Yeah.
Hey, did you get my calendar? And then that's my way of staying in touch with them. And then when they say, most will say yes, then I'll say, great, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And then occasionally one of those will say, thanks for the calendar, Frank.
Yeah.
My cousin is thinking of buying. Or thanks for the calendar, Frank. My sister is thinking of selling. And then bam, you work on that, you got a lead, and then you work it in it turns into a transaction in January or February or March.
And those activities that Frank does, and I think we all do the same similar things, post them on your Instagram, on your Facebook. Hey, like I've seen, I've done this. I think Frank sometimes has done this too. You get a calendar, you say, hey, who wants one? right? And then they'll write you back and say, hey, here's my address. There's a lead.
Uh-huh,
And then you reach out to them, hey, did you get it? If you're in the area, and you stop by their house. Hey, I just want to bring your calendar, what's going on? So those kind of little things, I know, when we take listings, especially if it's an area that we really like, we'll door knock that area. Even more now, because we want more listings in that area. So we've done that for years now, and it works. And if they say, hey, you know what, right now, I'm actually passing out calendars for next year. Do you want one? Yeah, give me your information and they'll give it to you. And it's not like you're soliciting any kind of business. It's more like getting to know them. So everything kind of helps and works. And I think that's really just putting ourselves out.
For me, I think differently. Most agents would probably think, okay, it's the end of the year, maybe it's time to slow down. Like, actually, this is a critical phase of the business. You know, instead of slowing down, you have to actually double down. So you have to make sure that you send out calendars to your clients, because you want to have a strong start next year. You want to have a strong January. So we do that once a year. We send out calendars as well. So we try to contact our sphere of influence 4 times a year, and that's one of the ways we reach out to them. And then also work on your business plan. So take this time to really, you know, zone into like, what do I really want to achieve next year? Like, how many transactions do I really want and how much money I want to make? So work on that business plan. And if you don't have a database, I would recommend start creating your database. That will be your gold mine in the next 5 to 10 years. As much as I still prospect a lot, strangers, expires, FISBOs, my database has paid off so much that this last year, 90% of my business came from my past clients and center of influence. 90%. And now I feel like, okay, I'm getting complacent. Now I feel like I'm just working on my database, not as much as strangers that I could actually maybe add another 10 or 15 transactions. So my biggest challenge is the complacency sometimes sets in, because now you get a lot of referrals. People are actually calling you now, you know, so it's like, okay.
You get caught up
That
in the
you get
day-to-day
caught up in
business.
that feeling of, oh, I get another referral today, then maybe I shouldn't prospect today. So,
Yes.
you know, that's the challenge I face now. So I gotta stick to the schedule. That's why it's important to have that structure and that schedule. You gotta follow it as much as you can. Mike Theory said that if you only follow 50% of your schedule, guess what? You're gonna be successful compared to the other agents that don't follow any schedule at all. So just take that extra step and don't be too hard on yourself. You're gonna fail. You're gonna miss out on, you know, like days that maybe, you know, you feel like, oh my God, I didn't do my job. But tomorrow's a new day. Just always start fresh.
And you're coming from an
Yeah.
agent like Sunshine that when she came here and moved here to the States, she knew nobody. So she has 0 in her database. So building up to what she has now, we never thought about this 10 years ago, but they said add 2 to 3 people a day or a month or a week. You'll be surprised by 5 years from now, you'll have 600, 700 people in there. 10% of about 60
Yeah.
or 70 transactions, they're even will work out. There's 30 deals right there, just out of your friends.
So if you break it down, at least 5 new people on your database a week, that's 240 people on your database a year. So if you focus on that, you can have 500 people on your database for 2 years. And if the return is about 10% and you really follow through and, you know, and check in with those people, that's 50 deals.
Remember, because
Yeah.
we're not working, there's 365 days in a year. I'm only working for me.
Yeah.
I'm only working 260 days. So I'm taking most of the weekends off. Not Frank. Frank's working every weekend.
Saturdays. I take Sundays off. I
So
usually-
I calculate 265. I'm contacting at least 15 people a day, sometimes 20. I'm hitting close to over a couple thousand people a year. Out of that, I should be able to pull out 30 deals. And so you break everything down into numbers, it starts to make sense. Because if not, you get scared of that number. You really, I believe me, I used to get really fearful of what I gotta call 20 people. But that takes me about 200 dials. That's gonna take me forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does. So it took me like 4 hours, and I started figuring out how to get better at it. And then when I would say stuff, it would come out so robotic, like what Peter was saying, like it does come out robotic because I never practiced. So it's kind of intimidating. But if you were to call and just say, hey, are you looking to sell? And they say no, and they hang up, right, you did your job. But skills, I mean, skills really kind of help us now.
Practice, right?
Practice and skills and getting myself out of comfort zones. I think that's been great.
That's my question, like what skills you think a successful real estate agent should have, other than good communication skills, customer service skills,
It's the lead generation skills.
generation skills, which are.
You have to, whether
You're
getting on
supposed to
the
be
phone and
comfortable.
talking to people, or so, using social media, to reach out to, people. But it is, for me, it's important lead generation. Yeah.
You know, Rosie, this is a macro answer to your question, but in our business, what's super important is there's a lot of things, but the two super important things I think are focus and consistency. When you're focused on whether it's lead generation or doing a CMA or being here in this class, you want to focus on that. When I'm not working and I'm focusing with my wife or my kids, I'm focused on them. If I'm with my other family, I'm focused on them. If I'm with the dog, I focus on the dog. You want to focus on what you're doing and don't let yourself get distracted. The other thing is consistency. I've been mailing those calendars since the beginning when I became an agent. And I knew their effectiveness because I was in another business in which we did calendars and they always generated goodwill and business. So whatever you find that works for you, do it consistently, whether it's being on the phone, door knocking, mailing, texting, or whatever, but consistency and focus are super important. I see so many agents, they're doing something and then the phone rings and then they get taken off of their schedule. Or they try something, maybe they try door knocking for a week and it doesn't work, so they give it up.
Yeah.
Find what works and then do it consistently and focus on it. Don't let yourself get distracted.
Joseph, I think the most important skill that a real estate agent is to convince your agent that they can trust you. Once you get that trust, you can have to do anything you want. So that is the most important thing. You cannot be too smart, because if you're too smart, they will suspect that you are pulling something from them. So you have to be talking in the own level to get the trust. And once you get the trust, you get them in.
But I will say something about Rosie. She dealt with one of the most difficult buyers. Oh, I would have sent her, Anyways, but I said, I admire her. I mean, this was a difficult, and she sold, she got the buyer. She was able to find her a house, but it took a lot of patience. So I commend, man, you deserve a Medal of Honor or something. But, I saw her in action, dealing with this difficult customer. And it was like, wow.
So you're gonna deal with those, and I think you have to walk away and learn from that experience. That's good experience, right? What makes us really good is not only that we're consistently wanting to learn stuff, but the experience of every transaction is, some are similar, but a lot of them are a little bit different. I would say if I were in your shoes and I'm starting off and I would want somebody to tell me something, is really focus on my schedule. And especially that morning routine, and keep it simple. And don't overwhelm myself, and understand that the ups and downs are gonna happen every single day. But I've always wanted to learn what to say, because I always didn't know what to say, and I thought I did. So I would say things that are normally a little more egotistical. But when I started learning the scripts, it really taught me to say, really get to the point a lot faster, and it made me sound like I knew what I was talking about. My coach used to tell me that the more time I spend with that client, the less they think that I know. The less time I spend with them, they're gonna value my time. So I love it when my clients tell us sometimes, we get to the business, we handle the business, we handle the objection, we handle whatever the signing of documents, and they're like, okay, Ruben and Sunshine, we know you guys are busy, so go ahead and take care of whatever you guys. thank you for your time. And, oh, that means so much to me because they value my time, because I value their business. And I always, if I can, I say, hey, I don't mind spending a little more time with you. No, we understand it. And that, you give them that impression. Wow, like, it was a reward for us. So I would say structuring my morning schedule. So I'll keep it simple, right? Morning schedule and learning what to say. So learning those scripts. And then being okay to fail. Like, don't beat yourself up. Just, you know what? I fail a lot. Sunshine does. Oh, Frank does. I see him fail all the time. If you can't laugh at
It's part of winning.
if you can't-
Fail, win,
we
fail,
can laugh
fail,
at-
win.
we can't laugh about it. We're gonna stress out, right? As I'm gotten older, I was talking to Sunshine, I was telling her, what's more important to me is my health, my happiness. And so how do we stay healthy? Is just like you constantly think of happy thoughts, right? So if I were a new agent, focus and consistency, go with that morning schedule, just that morning schedule. So from whatever your morning is, 9 to 11, 9 to, and then learn your script. That would kind of be, I mean, it's just a little bit, right? There's
And a big percentage of it is your mindset, strengthening your mindset on a daily basis. That's super important. Knowing that no matter, there's gonna be a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns. So don't attach yourself to the outcome, but more attach yourself to the effort that you're putting in on a daily basis to succeed. Because you're gonna get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections. And so it's really important to have that strong mindset. So,
they're not rejecting you personally,
yeah,
because you're a great person. They're rejecting the part that they don't need your business. And a lot of times we connect the rejection with, oh, they're being personal. They're not being.
so it's just accepting that it's part of the business. So an acceptance, it makes you feel better about it, that it's not, you don't take it too personally.
You can't be soft skinned in this business.
Yeah.
Because they're mean. There's some mean people out there. But if you kill them with kindness, they can't be mean anymore. Be frank.
Speaking of kindness, usually when I'll go on a listing presentation, I learned this from Coach David Halpern. I take a gift for the prospective client. I'll take them a box of cream puffs, if it's a single female, I'll take some flowers. I'll always take them a little something because I use the law of reciprocation. They want to do something for you after you do something for them. And I'm not being insincere. I really like to give them cream puffs or flowers and they're so happy.
Yeah,
And it helps build trust. And so that's what I love to do. So that's what I do most of the time. Is a new person, they'll get a little gift from me when they meet me and they're so happy.
And going back to the scripts too, is like English your second language, like for some of us English. Use the scripts as your English because it also helps you with your English. So as I trained agents, a lot of them were English for their second language. That brought up their confidence because they would practice English and learn script. I seen that connection and that could bring up their confidence. So that was something that.
Any other questions? No? Good.
I have a comment, and we have talked about a lot about what to do, but we actually didn't touch too much on how to do it. So there's a lot of tools that you have employed in the practice of real estate. I would like you to share with the agents maybe next time. Yeah, we have another session, so exactly concentrate on how to do it the way that can help you to do. To do the business that you are now. That was very valuable for the agents.
Yeah.
Right, Ruben?
I agree. Well, first I want to thank Frank, Sunshine and Ruben for giving us carving out some time today. I know your time's valuable, and then I hope all our agents that attended via Zoom and in person can take something and apply it to their business and stuff. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate it.